Now I'm just killing time. The sound you hear in the background is the pug named Eloise, who is snoring. She's 16 and she's allowed. This is the first, actually, of a series which is going to be loosely called Hine Quarters. It's a difficult thing to describe the community in which I grew up. There was Greenwich, which I used to call a colonial trailer park that Rockefeller tried to buy before he bought Williamsburg because it was just so perfect. And then there were the other people who were like farmers. My parents bought a house from one of those farmers, and they like torn out like a bearing wall, which my dad had to repair by hand. It's like we were like living in the sticks. But then, see, as my dad was like rebuilding the bearing wall, this man named Francis Lyman Hine bought a place about 2 miles down the road that he renamed Hine Quarters. It was an old colonial house, 1750s, something like that. And he bought 450 acres. Yeah, I know. And he also added an Olympic swimming pool and a tennis court, hard true. Which actually, I mean, the hard true tennis courts were the best tennis courts of the day, and I have never played on anything that was easier on the knees and the arms. So anyhow, and there was this bathhouse that was the size of like most houses in our part of Cumberland County. And then, you see, we had this whole new social construct. Because before Hine, as he was called, moved in, there was a very clearly differentiated social caste in the nearest town, which was called Bridgeton, and then there was another town called Salem, and they dueled over like who had like bragging rights over the other. I mean, this is all so funny because they took turns being late for each other's parties. Bridgeton people were always late. Salem people were always on time. And the Salem people high-hatted the Bridgeton people because the Bridgeton people were basically Industrial Revolution types. You know, it's like Bridgeton was an Industrial Revolution type of town. And so you had like people who actually made things as opposed to people from Salem who like owned things, mainly land. And then Hine comes in. So Hine like owns things, and you know, by virtue of his pedigree, he also makes things because he is heir to the great Coca-Cola fortune. He is like rich beyond belief. And he has decided to flee the New York 400 society pages to come down to our neck of the woods, where like there were a bunch of places called neck roads. We lived on Statham's Neck Road, and Hine lived on Bacon's Neck Road, and neck roads were roads that like wound around and around and around and never got anywhere. And I think that's what Hine actually wanted. He wanted to be lost. But, you know, when you're that rich and you make that much money just by like sitting there, you can't be lost. People will seek you out. Well, all of this is happening at the same time that my little sister and I Actually, she's my big sister. She's like 18 months older than I am. We were just like getting to school age. This is a complicated story, as I think I intimated at the beginning. So somehow or other, Hine gets in league with my grandfather, Laird, whom I have previously called Baba. And between the two of them, they actually like establish a new private school where the principal point is that the Laird children and the Hine children are going to get a real education, as opposed to what is being offered by the Greenwich School District, which is like zero. At the same time, the social castes of both Salem and Bridgeton are discovering that there is a true social luminary in their midst named Francis Lyman Hine, and his all-but hostess wife named Sis. The result is, well, it's hard to put it in any other than Gatsby terms, because that's pretty much what it was like. It's like everybody wanted to be there. And the Hine rules for their pool house and their pool and their tennis court were simply call first, show up, we don't care. And so they did. They showed up, everybody swam. That's where I had my first life and death experience. And you know, I've written about a lot of those. They found me like sitting at the bottom of the shallow end of the pool. And I had to be like pulled out. And apparently there was no harm done. Apparently I could breathe underwater. But, you know, this is what life is. The other great thing was that they had Hine cocktail parties, which were something brand new in Bridgeton's Salem experience, because mostly the Salem people were Quakers, and you know, you were lucky if you got crackers and cheese, and cheap cheese at that. And the Bridgeton people didn't really actually know what you would have to offer as hors d'oeuvres. Sis Hine, however, knew exactly what to offer, and she had the kitchen to prove it. And the other thing is, of course, that in both Salem and Bridgeton, everybody was like, you know, careful about bar costs. You know, like cheap this, not that much of that. And it's like, it was not actually a paid bar, but it's like, you know, if you really wanted to, like, you know, get a load on, you had to bring your own. Not so with the Hines. They had an unlimited top shelf bar all night long. So, describing Hine parties is actually going to be like part 2 of this Hine Quarters series. Are we all comfortable with that?